everyone, today we are looking at some Arrtx acrylic markers that I've been sent to have a look at. I have reviewed a similar set before. It was this one here, which was the 30A set, I think, and then this is a 30B, so there are different colours. We've also got bullet tip ones that are available in extra colours, and then the new Simp Tap acrylic marker set, which has a completely novel way of releasing paint down into the nib, which I haven't seen before. I don't know if it's brand new or not, but I haven't seen it before. So we'll start off with the big box. This is 48 colours and it's a 3mm bullet nib, so it's a big thick bullet nib. These would be great if you do things like painting on rocks, on different materials like glass and that kind of thing. In colouring books, maybe not so much. They would be good for filling in larger areas at once, but as for details and things, these aren't the ones for details. So it tells you all of the colours on the back, and when you open it up, the pens actually come in a plastic holder, or two plastic holders. It's quite difficult to remove though. I'm going to try my best to get it out without tipping the pens everywhere, but I don't think it's not going to happen. What I might do, because I'm not planning on keeping the box, is I might just slice it down the edge and then we can get the trays out easier. So if you're planning on keeping the box, don't do this. But just for the purposes of this demonstration, I want to show you how you can sort of set them up on your desk. So I'm slicing right down to the bottom. There we go. Keep going, keep going. Yeah, making a bit of a mess of this, aren't I? As usual. Right, that should do. So I'm just going to pull that down and slide these out, and then hopefully you can see what I mean. A little bit awkward. I think they could have found a bit of a better way of doing it, but anyway, that's one of the trays. And here's the second tray. Just realised I could have opened it all up at the bottom. But that's what I do. I go around about things the hard way first. So yes, as you can see, you've got all your pens stood up, and it comes in this case for individual markers. So here's what one marker looks like. It's got the Arrtx name, acrylic markers, strong coverage, recap after use, 3mm bullet tip. On the back it tells you how to prime them. So when you first get them, there'll be no ink in the nib whatsoever. You have to shake the marker, press the nib down several times, and then start using the marker once the tip is inked. That's the normal way that we usually prime acrylic paint markers, for instance Posca pens. And I'll show you the other way that they've developed when we look at the Simp Tap. But here's what one looks like. It's a big thick bullet nib, and I quite like the decoration on the pens. It's quite nice style. So they all have numbers, as you can see, so you can chart them really easily. And if you want to see the colours, here's the little chart that I've made. So you can see we've got a metallic silver and gold at the top. Hopefully you can see the light shining over them. You can see the metallic effect. And then we've got a couple of neons at the end, and the rest of them are just more or less solid colours. Some of them came out and drew a little better than others. So for example, you can see on the pink one here, 355, I don't know if the ink was right down into the nib properly or whether I'd shaken it enough, but it was slightly less opaque than, say, the 348 next to it. So I think you just have to make sure that you're really shaking your pens, getting that paint mixed up and getting it down into the nib properly. But other than that, the coverage is really nice. So I'll show you in a bit what I often use paint pens for in colouring books. But yes, just for that particular set, the pros of it are they're all numbered. They have a nice design. They have little trays that you can put them on your desk and sort of display them with, and they're mostly nice and opaque colours. So that's the pros for that set. Let's move on to the next set, which is the one that I've reviewed before, but at different colours this time. So this is, I think, 30B, the set. It might be 30A. It's one or the other. But the ones that I reviewed before look like this. They've got a bit of yellow on them up here. These are the new ones that I'm reviewing. So 30 colours, water-based and brush tip, bright and opaque, available on different surfaces. So that means applicable to different surfaces. So if we open it up, it's got the same sort of insides as the previous box that I reviewed before. And it's got a little tray that you pull out. Again, it can be quite awkward. There we go. So those are the 2 trays worth of colours that you get. Now I've taken the liberty of using the underside of the box, because I will keep this box, as the little paint swatch. They did include little numbered stickers, and I think what you're meant to do is put those numbered stickers onto the pen itself and then write down the number on your swatch chart. And I think I've just done it the wrong way because I wasn't thinking, I did it quickly. Because these pens don't have any numbers on them at all. So that is a major point against them, is that they should have some kind of point of reference on there, whether it's a name or a number. But obviously that's why they've included the stickers, so that you can put those on the pen and then make your own chart. I just didn't realise. So the nib is a brush nib, and I quite like brush nibs. I think it's good that you can get different thicknesses and lines out of the one tip. And the colours are really nice. There's a lot of pastel colours in this, and somewhat more unusual colours as well. This grey green is really nice. Love this very, very light mint green as well. And then we've got a very deep sort of blue, grey, green colour down here that I really like. The stickers don't match up to the colours for the most part at all. So you can see, well, hopefully you can see, this one is a lot more of a forest green, whereas this is like a very deep teal. Let's see if there's another one. Yeah, so this one is a lot darker than its actual swatch, and this one is much greener. This is more of a cream colour. This is like a chartreuse colour. So they don't really match up very well. So don't look at the colours, but you can do it by the numbers. So they are the brush acrylics. You don't have to prep these at all. That's a really good sort of plus for these pens. You don't have to prep them. You don't have to do any shaking or pushing the nib. They're ready to use when you first get them, which is handy, because as you'll know, when you get a first big set of paint pens, doing all that priming for the first time, it's really tedious. So it's nice that these are already primed. Nice little box as well. Really strong, sturdy cardboard. And yeah, like I say, I'm going to keep this box. It's a box that I would prefer to keep them in. Whereas before with the other ones, they had those plastic insert things that you can display. So I actually prefer them. Okay, so that's those. And then we come on to the Simp Tap markers. Now these are brand new. There's 24 colours here. They are again waterproof and a brush tip, have strong coverage and bright and usable on various surfaces. So same kind of ink, same kind of paint, but it's a whole different ball game when you come to priming them. So it's got this little elastic band around it. If you did want to keep them in this, you could do. It's quite nice. And I don't know, has this one got any, let me just check, I haven't checked that. No, this one hasn't got any plastic inserts at the bottom, so you might want to keep these in this. And the pens themselves. So I'm just going to pull one out and show you. First thing I've got to note is that it does have a number on the pen itself, on the cap. So that's great for when you're charting. It's a 1 to 6 millimeter brush nib, so that means that you can get really fine lines and then press a bit harder to get your thicker lines. You know how brush tips work. And then it tells you how to prime them on the side, and this is where it's really, really different. Just before I show you, it's actually got a little window here so that you can see the amount of paint that's in it. I don't know whether my glare is going to show you that, but you've got the little window there to show you anyway. It also says it's sunproof, so a bit of a strange term that. It's not exactly light fast, but sunproof, I don't really know what they're trying to achieve by that. Maybe they're saying that the colours won't fade in the sun or degrade in the sun. Maybe if you paint in something that's an outside ornament with these, maybe it's saying it won't degrade or discolour. I don't know, it's not made clear. And then here's the tip. So you can see this is one that I've not primed yet. I think I've only primed a couple of them actually. And I'm going to show you how it works. So instead of pushing it up and down, which of course will ruin the brush nib because it's very delicate, you actually use a little button on top of the pen. and we're going to do it together so we can see how long it takes to bring the ink down into the nib. So I'm going to give it a really good shake. I think that should do. I'm going to open it up. You can't see anything here at all ink wise, it's completely clear, and I'm going to press down. Hopefully you can see the little end of the pen. It doesn't give you an awful lot of pressing to do. It's very sort of small amount of pressing into the pen, but already if I turn this around you can see that the ink has started to flow into the pen. So I pressed it for what, a few seconds there, and this side is kind of blank, but I'm thinking if we do it more vertical so that the gravity can really get down, it will cover it. But you can see how quick that works. It came through this completely clear area and straight onto the brush nib. Then what I usually do is I'll put it back in and give it another good shake. This usually ensures that the rest of the brush will get covered in the paint. There's still a little bit there that's not covered, but the rest of it is completely saturated. So I think with a few more shakes, maybe a couple of little taps on the end, you would get that fully, the fully saturated brush. Okay, so how does it actually work? Well, I've got a little marker pad here, so let's test it. Wow, lovely opaque, very creamy feeling, very matte paint. It's absolutely beautiful actually to use. You can see that's still not filled the rest of the nib. And like I say, I've done a few of these before. I've activated a few of them and that hasn't happened. So of course it's going to happen on video. Let's give it another good shake. Has it made a difference? No, it's not filling that up. I don't know why that's not happening. Of course it had to be when I'm filming, but then that's a good thing because you can see that they're not always reliable. But as for the paint, even on that side where it's not soaked at the top, it's coming out really, really nicely. I think I like this better, this whole push the button rather than press the nib down, because one, you're saving your nibs, and two, it just seems easier than doing this up, down, up, down, up, down, up, down, and then all your paint just goes if you do it too much. Whereas this one, it kind of flushes the paint down into the nib, and I don't think there's much chance of it blurting out everywhere. Probably if you kept pressing it, there would be. Let me see if there's any other colours. Yeah, this is one that I've already primed. So this is the red colour. Did this the other day and I haven't touched the pen since, so even though it's been, what, it's probably actually been a week since I primed the ones that I primed, they're still coming out really, really nice. And I really like these actually. Let's see what we can do for very fine lines. And then you press a little harder, you get a thicker line, you go on the edge, you get an even thicker line. So you see you can really play about with them to get different results. Okay. So I haven't looked at all the colours of these yet, obviously, because I've only primed a few of them. But what I'll do now is I'll go through and I'll prime the rest of the colours, and I'll do a bit of a swatch for you so you can see what they're like. Then we'll look at what they do in colouring books and how I use them personally. Okay, so in the course of doing that swatching, you might have seen that the way that I prepped them changed a little bit halfway through, because I think I found an easier way than to keep sort of pressing them or holding it down, which is going to really make your thumb ache, to get them to fill quicker. And I've got the last one here, the black, to show you, so it's completely unprepped and dry. So what I did, don't know if this is the right way or the wrong way, but it's worked for me so far, is I put the cap back on, must do that, and then hold the button down and give it a shake. Now you only need to do this for about, what, 5 or 6 seconds? And then hopefully you should see that most of the paint has come down into the brush. Now, a few of the times that I did it, it was completely soaked. So maybe I did just a few more little shakes, but we did have it taking a little bit more time. But it's a damn sight quicker than sitting there for ages with your finger on the button, stressing out all your muscles here, waiting for that ink to slowly slide down. So that was 799. So there's my chart of all the colours. I just want to have a look at the bullet nib ones and see if we've got similar colours on here. So I can see that we've got gold and silver, gold and silver. We've only really got one yellow with the brushes compared to a couple of different options in the bullet nib. I think some of the colours are the same and some are different. I think this 747 is that really deep, very grey, very desaturated teal colour that I really like. And we saw that on the other box, didn't we? The box of the other brush nibs. So maybe the Simp Tap and the 30B set have got the same kind of colourway because they are the brush pens, whereas the bullet ones have got a few different colours in there. I'll leave all the options and links in the description so you can go and have a look at all the different sets because there are so many. There's brush and bullet and set A and set B and so many different colour choices. So I'll let you go on and have a look for yourself, see what you think. But I would say if you're looking to do more detailed work, go for something that's got the brush tip because you can kind of control the thickness of your stroke. You know, with the 3mm bullet, you're never going to control anything that's just got a little fat bullet end on it like this, but it is good for other things. So I'll show you how I use them in colouring books. Now, I'm a big Posca fan, so I use them quite often. I've got my book here. This is Fairy Tales and Folklore. If you haven't seen this already, I've reviewed it on my channel a couple of videos ago. You'll find it. And it's the book that we brought back into production that was seemingly lost forever. So you'll find a little forward by me in here. Anyway, not gonna distract. Just wanted to tell you what book it was because I'm sure I'll have questions. Okay, so this is the page that I completed the other day. It's the introduction nameplate page. And as you can see, I did it with a lot of pastel pencils, Holbein mainly, in fact, all Holbein, and then some Posca dots all over the place. You know what I'm like with dots. We've got dots all over the flowers and yeah, you know, I love my pen dots. So that's one thing that you could do with these acrylic markers. If you're looking for something that's cheaper than Posca, you can do exactly the same effect of these dots on top of coloured pencil. Very opaque. I'll just show you for an example. Let me just grab that again so I want to see the colours. There's not many pale colours on this one. Let me try the other box. I think this set B, or whatever it is, has more pale colours in it. Yeah. So, if I'm wanting to match up the dots on here, say I'm looking at, I guess, the blue dots. Let's go for the blue dots. So if we look at number 35, which again, I'm not sure which colour that is, but counting down, I've kept them all in order, counting down 3 from the red takes us to this dark blue. So hoping that that's the one. It's not going to be exactly the same because I was using Posca, but hopefully you can see. In fact, I want to bring this up to camera. Are we zoomed? Yeah, we're zoomed. Hopefully you can see these little dots are completely opaque over even the black lines. They're not exactly the right shade of blue that I was using before. Hopefully you can see them, but they definitely work. So that's one way you can use your acrylic markers in colouring books, is to add details, tiny weeny details. And another thing you can do with them, which is really great, is if you've got any very, very small details like, let's see, on this flower or on the troll's nose, it had, the illustration had some circles that were supposed to be like warts or something, right? I couldn't be bothered to use my coloured pencils all the way around these tiny little circles and be very, very careful not to colour over the circles so that I could colour them in later. So I just basically coloured them in. And then I used it looks like a peach Posca pen here, just to dot into the circles. And because they're opaque, it covers up all of the pencil that I've put underneath. I didn't do it very carefully, as you can probably see on here. But it means that you don't have to be careful of tiny details. You can just colour over them, not worry, and then come back in at the end with your acrylic marker and fill those dots in. So that's another thing you can do. Another thing that I really like doing, let me find a decent colour. Let's say number 41, because I'm going to show you on a petal. So 41 is, let's see, oh, 41 is this one, hopefully. So if I look at one of my flowers, let me zoom you in. Say this purple flower. A lot of the time when we're colouring, the black lines can make things look a little bit one-dimensional. That's why we kind of try and make our colouring look a bit more 3D with the blending and shading that we do. But a lot of the times people like to cover up the black lines, make it look a bit more natural and less drawn, more painted. So I would use a pen like this of a very similar or same colour to what I've coloured in with coloured pencil. And I'll go over those black lines. I'm just going to do it on a petal here so you can see very carefully. Straight over the black line. It's going to cover it completely. Now, I'm not being super careful here because I'm rushing. But hopefully you can see the difference that that makes between this one petal and the rest of them. It sort of makes the illustration not look so restricted by lines, obviously, because there is no line now. We've erased it, but it gives it a more naturalistic look. So if I were to do that on all of this page, all of the lines, all of the flowers, it would look more painterly rather than something that you've coloured in that has a border. Hopefully that's making sense. It makes sense in my brain, but my mouth doesn't seem to want to explain it properly. But yeah, that's what I was thinking of doing with this whole page, actually, is just going around it with the same colours you've used. So for a leaf, I've used a very light green at the edges. So I'd be using a really light green around the edge of the leaf. Probably that 57 is a little bit too light, but it might work. There's loads of colours available with these Arrtx markers, so I think you need to find what suits you best. If you want more of a pastel set, this is quite a good one. It does have some deep colours in there, but it does have a lot of pastels as well. It depends what colours you use, but I really like this technique of obscuring the black that's underneath to make more of a realistic effect. So I am going to have to go in now and do that whole flower because it's going to annoy me otherwise. But hopefully you can see what I mean. Now you have to be a lot more careful than I am. My hand is shaking. I'm doing this on camera, so I'm already got the pressure of getting it perfect. But I think you'll see what I mean. I think you'll know what I mean. You should do by now. You should be able to translate Claire speak by now. So that's a couple of ways that you can use them in your colouring books. You can avoid all the tiny weeny details, just colour over them, then come back in later and dot your little details in. Like I said, you can erase border lines. What else did I say? Well, you can do dots like this all over the place. So this gradient that I did in the Holbein coloured pencil went a little bit skew-if. So I was like, how can I detract the eye away from the gradient that is less than perfect underneath? And I was like, of course, solution to everything, paint dots. So I've made it look like confetti with all different colours of pastel paint dots. And yeah, it just adds something extra to the illustration, makes it look a little bit less flat, a little more interesting to the eye. And that's generally what I use my paint markers for. So there you go. Also, another thing to mention is if you've got any mistakes, if you've gone out of the lines anywhere, it can be hard to erase pencil, especially if it's like Prismacolor or something. It's not very erasable at all. So if you've gone out of the lines, you might want to use a pen to touch it up. Now, I don't know if you can see here. Let me see. Yeah, I've gone out of the lines on this castle. So I'm going to use the white paint pen just to cover up those bits that I've gone over. Now, when you've got a dark colour and you're going over it with white, even though these are opaque, they're not miracle workers. So you may have to let it dry and just do another coat over the top. But it's not bad at all. So yeah, bit of an all over the place review, as they always are with me. But I hope that you've found something interesting about these markers, something appealing to you. Let me know. I want to know whatever you think. This is an unbiased review. It's just me getting products and testing them and telling you what I think of them. So let me know what you think, what you would use the different ones for. You've got your bullets, you've got your brush in a box. They're gonna have to rename them brush in a box now. And then you've got your, which are all over the place, the Simp Tap ones, which is the pushy button ones. So let me know what you think. I'd be really interested to see your comments, and if you've got these, let me know how you also use them in colouring books. It'd be good to put some ideas in the comments for other viewers to come and have a look, get some inspiration. And yeah, I think that's all I've got to say. So again, all links in the description. You can have a look, see what you think, and I will see you soon on Colour with Claire. If you made it to the end, you can now see a picture of my toenails painted with the Arrtx markers. I was in a rush. I had to paint them quickly. I couldn't find my nail polish. So I was like, screw it. I'm going to get a paint marker and just do it for quick. Do not try this at home. Do not take my word for it. Do not think it's safe. I don't know. I just did it quickly, but I thought it would give you guys a laugh.